everybody, how you doing today? Thanks for joining me for this little review of the Epiphone 59 reissue Les Paul. Now, this is the version that has been so popular, so I thought I'd come over here and do a little real-world review, a gig-tested review. At this point, I have played dozens of shows with this guitar. I've owned it for a few months, but I play almost at least 2 shows a weekend, sometimes more. And so I've actually put this thing through its paces in the real world, in a real environment, with gigging amps in front of an audience. And so I'm going to tell you about my experience. You probably know a little bit about this if you've paid any attention to what's been going on, if you've watched any other reviews, but I'll go over some of the specs right quick that led to my purchase. But before I do that, I'll tell you why I bought this guitar if I'm a gigging musician. I've owned a Gibson 58 VOS for many years, not too long after they started producing the VOSs. Mine's pretty old, 12, 14 years old now. And it had gotten to the point where I didn't really like taking it out every single weekend to, bars and clubs that I play in. It's becoming more valuable, but also I was getting some significant fret wear. I use some really big strings. I play a very particular style, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. But I wanted a replacement guitar that was comparable in tone, but I'm not a brand loyal person, to be honest. I love Gibsons, but I also like Fenders. I like Epiphones. I like Dan Electros. I like all kinds of stuff. So I was really looking for what was going to be the best overall investment for me. And in my opinion, this was a good choice, and I'm happy with it. I will say that. So some of the specs that you've got here, we got the burst buckers, the real Gibson pickups in here. You've got the 50 style wiring, real CTS pots, real CTS switch. So these are all really important aspects. This is built in conjunction with the Gibson Custom Shop, and you've got the limited edition badge on the switch cover back here, and you can tell a difference in this guitar and just the regular Epiphones, because I actually have another Epiphone that I got this year that was a gold top 50s version, and it's nice, but it's not as well built as this guitar is. Now, if you've noticed already, this is the I think Sweetwater calls this a honey burst, but it's really more of like a tangerine burst. But this is the Sweetwater exclusive color, and in all honesty, I don't really like the color. It's kind of like a peach tangerine thing, but I didn't buy it to hang it on the wall and look at it. If I had, I would have got something different, but I really didn't want the dark burst that everybody has gotten, because everybody's got one, and I don't want to do the same thing that everybody else does. So I got this one, and I'm happy with the playability. Now, the real factor that caused me to get this guitar, the 2 real factors that caused me to choose this particular guitar: the pickups and electronics, and the neck. I read review after review after review of all different kinds of brands of Les Paul copies and different Les Pauls, different Gibsons, different Epiphones. And I wanted something with a neck as close to my 58 VOS as I could get. And it has a massive baseball bat neck. And I played probably 25 of those 58 and 59 VOSs before I bought mine. And it was the biggest neck I have ever played on a Gibson, period. So I wanted something like that. It's more comfortable for me. I kind of have big hands. When I'm doing a 3-hour show, it's just a more comfortable experience for me to have a really big neck to hold on to. So after I read and listened to a lot of reviews of this guitar, I thought it would be good, and I told the salesperson at Sweetwater, said, I don't care what it looks like, pick out the one with the biggest neck, and if they're all the same, give me the heaviest one. Anyway, I got this guitar. I've done a lot of gigs with it. I had to set it up. I set up all my guitars in a very particular way because I play slide and with and without the slide a lot, and I play in standard and open tuning. But this guitar and my 58 I always use in standard tuning down half a step. So I have to have a setup and strings that will enable me to use that slide. So I use a really big string. I use a 12 on the first string, Diodario's only. And so I have it set up with kind of a medium high action, and that's really how I like it. And I sat and compared it back to back with my Gibson, and I got it as close as I could. Pickups almost exactly the same distance as my Gibsons were. And I did the setup on that guitar as well, but I wanted to match it very closely. String height and everything, I got it as dead on close as I could possibly get it. And it's a pretty convincing fake of that 58 VOS. If I played these blindly to you, if you couldn't see which one I was playing and you were 10, 20 feet away in a crowded bar, I don't think you could possibly tell the difference. I can barely tell the difference playing them. They're really close, and Epiphone did a really good job, or Gibson, I guess, owns Epiphone. They did a really good job putting this guitar together. It's worth the $850 that it cost. The case is cool. I'll throw a picture up there of the case. Look, check out that pink interior. I think it's pretty awesome. Now, I don't carry that to the gigs because the Epiphone cases are a little fragile, the exterior, so I actually use a different type of hard shell case. But nonetheless, I thought the case that came with it was cool. They did a good job all around. The finish is not bad. Veneer top on this. So solid mahogany body. I don't know if it has weight relief. It's not quite as heavy as my 58 VOS, but it's pretty close. It's heavier than some of the other Gibson Les Pauls I have that do have the weight relief of the body. But it's a veneer top on it, which, say what you will, I don't know why they do that. The thing that I dislike the most is that it has a veneer on the back, and it's to hide the fact that it's probably a three-piece body. And Epiphone, if you guys watch any of this, stop doing that. It's stupid. Just stop. But for looks, and most people that have these wouldn't know the difference, but I'd rather just see the regular wood. Now, it is a three-piece neck. And that's something that's different, but it does have the long neck tenon. As far as resonance goes, it is not quite as resonant as the real 58 VOS. It's just not. Doesn't have a nitro finish on it, and I think that plays a little part in it, but I also think that the one-piece neck that the real deal has lends it to having more overall body resonance. You can kind of feel it. But again, the tone coming out of the amplifier is not that much difference. Not that much different. So anyway, the thing that I love the most about mine is it's got a nice compressed tone. My 58, it's got a nice compressed tone. It kind of has a chewy element to it. And you really have to get the pickups just the right distance away from the strings. Depending on what size you have, it's going to be different. But it has to be just right to get that kind of chewy, compressed, classic, old school Les Paul tone. And it is available in this guitar. It really is. So anyway, that's a lot of talking about it. It's a cool guitar. It is made in China, which, we all wish that they weren't, but if they weren't, they'd be more expensive. But I would actually rather pay another $100 for this guitar and have it made somewhere else besides China. Again, if Epiphone is listening to this, stop making guitars in China. Like, at some point we've got to stop. But anyway, the guitar overall, really happy with it just as a guitar and for the price I paid. Lots of other things out there, the Les Paul Tribute, Studios, on that in a similar price bracket, but more expensive. But anyway, like I said, my style of playing, what do I do? Before I actually break into playing this thing for you guys for a minute, what do I do that's a little different? Why do I need a guitar set up differently? I play a very particular style of North Mississippi blues, and I have even a particular style within that of how I play the guitar. I use a lot of finger picking. I use my thumb. I don't play with a pick very often, if at all. But I use a lot of droning strings, and like I said, I use a slide a lot in standard tuning and in open tunings. So what that does is it gives me more options to play without a bass guitar, because oftentimes I'm doing a show by myself, and if you haven't watched my videos, I have a little circus act show where I play a whole drum set and sing and play the guitar at the same time. But lots of times I do play with a drum or a bass guitar, but I have a different style, and so I've tried to use a lot of different guitars in this same context, and for me it almost has to be a Les Paul through a Fender amplifier. So I'm going to play a little bit for you guys. What I'm doing with the recording of the guitar aspect of it, I try to make it as basic as possible. This is not necessarily my gig setup, but I wanted to replicate something that you folks may have at home or that you could replicate very easily at home. So I'm going to throw a picture up here. You can see I've got a SM57 right on the grill of a Blues Junior that is mostly stock. There's a couple of modifications to it, but nothing major. It does have an eminent speaker in it, but it's an attainable tone that anybody can get, and that SM57 is run directly into my Focusrite interface, and I am going to use virtually no effects at all. I'll put a little compression on this whole thing after I get it into the video editing software, but I'm not going to run any kind of effects, compression, nothing. It's all just Blues Junior straight up, and it's not even that loud. If I crank this up a little bit, it would be better, but it's late at night, and I wanted to emulate what you guys would probably be able to do in your own homes or in your apartments. It's probably a little above apartment level, but it's something that this is a tone that you could easily get at home. I'm not Tim Pierce. I don't have a separate room where I can crank Marshall stacks up full 100-watt blasting and send that signal somewhere else and not disrupt the world. So anyway, let's play this thing a little bit. Again, the Epiphone 59 Les Paul reissue. Here it is. So there you go, folks. That's my take on the Epiphone 59 Gibson 59 Les Paul reissue in cooperation with the Gibson Custom Shop. I'm glad that they did this. I'm glad that they kind of have come together. Gibson owns Epiphone, but Gibson's involvement in this seems to have upped the quality significantly. So anyway, there's my take on it. Thanks for watching. Tune in, check out some of my other songs. You can find a lot of my records on my YouTube channel or on iTunes or Spotify. Check that out, and I'll be back with some more reviews here soon. So have a great time out there, and we'll see you out in the real world.